Hi everyone. So, invading a hospital, searching it, intimidating wounded and doctors inside it, after besieging and bombing it for a week, and then bombed the warehouse of the medicines and medical supplies in it, amounts to a war crime. And the occupation has been doing this for the past week to Shifa Hospital. I'm still alive, and I want to tell you about my biggest fear. So my biggest fear is not to die. Actually, I'd rather prefer to die than living all of these nightmares, continuous nightmares. My biggest fear is to live. After all this war, to live and face the reality that our cities, our homes, our homeland, and everything is destroyed. Our beloved ones, our friends and relatives are killed, and to face that we don't have work, and we have to deal with a lot of humanitarian crisis, and people are facing winter. Winter is coming. People are without homes, without food, without fuel, without electricity.
This is news from Gaza. It is 1 a.m. Palestine time, November 16th. The IOF raid on Al-Shifa Medical Complex started 20 hours ago, and it is still continuing. 22 minutes ago, Adnan Al-Barsh, the head of orthopedic surgery department at Al-Shifa, told Al Jazeera the occupation forces are conducting a bulldozing operation inside Al-Shifa Medical Complex. The occupation forces destroyed medical equipment, MRI machines, and other devices inside the complex. This news came in via Resistance News Network's Telegram. Al-Shifa Hospital Director Dr. Mohammed Abu Salmiya told Al Jazeera that shots were fired at anyone who moved. Doctors couldn't even go to the pharmacy to get medication for patients. The emergency director told Al Jazeera that the IOF are in every single building of Al-Shifa complex. At least 200 people have been detained by the IOF. The basements have been raided, and the hospital has been ransacked, and medical equipment has been destroyed. This statement coming in from Al-Aqsa Voice Radio's Telegram page from Dr. Khaled Abu Samra. The occupation forces took water bottles from the basement of Al-Shifa Hospital, put stickers on them, and presented them as aid to us. And this in 4 minutes ago from Middle Eastern investigative news source The Cradle.co, the headline, Top Secret Hamas Command Bunker in Gaza Revealed. And this has been getting circulated, this news, on Twitter lately, so some of you may have already heard of this, but they released a report on it. Headline, Top Secret Hamas Command Bunker in Gaza Revealed. Well, actually no. It is actually an Israeli bunker built under Al-Shifa complex back in 1983 when Israel occupied Gaza. Soon, Israel will reveal to the world the top Hamas headquarters, which Israel built. That's why they're so sure something is there. Back in 1983, when Israel still ruled Gaza, they built a secure underground operating room and tunnel network beneath Shifa Hospital. And at the end, they have the link to a full article from July 29, 2014 in tabletmag.com. I might make a video after this reading this report, if it is interesting enough. If not, you could Google Tablet Mag Top Secret Hamas Command Bunker in Gaza Revealed, and I'm sure you will find it.
It is November 15th. I have updates for today. If I miss anything, please comment it. As many of you know, the thousands and thousands of civilians and patients and medical professionals in Al-Shifa are currently being put through a raid by Israeli terrorist forces. The occupation forces blew up most of the hospital's gates, and shrapnel scattered onto those present. Medical teams are struggling to save the wounded. The occupation forces detained many displaced people, blindfolded and stripped them of their clothes and led them to an unknown location. We hear no clashes, only gunfire from the side of the occupation army. There are no armed individuals in the complex. Water supply is cut off, and there is not a drop of water in the complex. They are terrorizing the people inside of Al-Shifa Hospital, and it hasn't stopped. The occupation army executed many families who tried to leave Al-Shifa Hospital, killing more than 30 martyrs. The situation in Al-Shifa Hospital is still the same. The occupation army interrogated the patients, companions, and medical staff for 10 hours. We hold the occupation fully responsible for the lives of patients and medical staff. The occupation expelled children and patients from Al-Shifa and Al-Rantisi hospitals. We demand that patients be evacuated to Egypt for treatment. And we demand that fuel be brought to all hospitals urgently. Health officials are pleading for patients to be evacuated to other hospitals. The problem is that no evacuation has been safe. And There has been no help provided in regards to transferring patients. You can't just take them out into the street. They need a safe route to get to another hospital, but unfortunately the other hospitals are also being surrounded by Israeli forces. There are 650 patients that would need to be transported. 22 are in intensive care. There are also 36 premature babies, and there are people who are hooked up to ventilators. You can't just move these people just wherever the fuck you want, however the fuck you want. It doesn't work like that. It has to be conducted in a specific way to ensure that they are safe. On top of raiding the hospital, they are also invading the surrounding areas of Al-Shifa. People are unable to even walk out of their houses because they get shot at if they do. We are getting closer to a complete communication and internet blackout in Gaza. This is because Israel is only allowing about 9% of what is needed in regards to fuel in Gaza. On top of the lack of fuel and clean water and food and other basic necessities and resources, Israeli forces are still constantly bombarding those who are in South Gaza. And on top of that, there's also heavy rainfall. Infectious diseases are on the rise in Gaza because of these conditions that I've been describing. There's chickenpox, upper respiratory infections, skin rashes, diarrhea, scabies, and lice. And we can only imagine now with the added cold that this is only going to further the type of illnesses that are going to happen in Gaza. And without proper medication, without proper medical care, a lot of people will succumb to these illnesses. I know that what is primarily being covered right now is Al-Shifa Hospital, but let me fill you in on what is happening in the rest of Gaza as well. 3 people were killed in an attack at a refugee camp in central Gaza. An Israeli airstrike killed several people in Al-Qarara, which is north of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza. Israeli artillery shelling targeted 4 silos in Al-Qarara, which also happens to be the only source for flour production in Gaza. Al-Salam mill, the only wheat mill that is currently operating in Gaza right now, was targeted and bombed by Israeli forces. Food resources are being taken away. Medical resources are being taken away. A hospital in North Gaza right now is being terrorized by Israeli forces. The current condition at Al-Awda Hospital in Jabalia is extremely critical. They are bombing around and incredibly close to the hospital, which we have seen this before. They did this with the other hospitals as well, and eventually they will end up surrounding the hospital. They've already damaged cars and ambulances that are outside of the hospital, which takes away even the slightest chance of an evacuation for anybody in the hospital. Even though an evacuation, like I've said before, is incredibly difficult for a hospital, that right there just completely takes away even a small shot of just a few evacuating. And the thing about this hospital is they're not just caring for the wounded, but they're caring for the pregnant women in northern Gaza. That is what makes up a large amount of their patients there as well. So where are you pro-lifers at? It's your time to fucking shine. Well, it's been your time to shine because babies, children, pregnant women have already been getting massacred in Gaza. So, come on now. Where are you? If there are any other updates throughout the day, I will make separate videos. Remember, protest, boycott, organize. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free.
إفراد المنزل المأهولة استمر على جميع المناطق. صعبة جدا الأوضاع تتفاقم بطريقة.
See behind me these kids, they came with their families.
From the other side.
A whole square in the middle of the parade.
فيما يتعلق بمدينة القدس الأبراج السكنية الخروج من الديار صعب جدا مؤلم جدا.
We are evacuating. We're leaving our houses. There's no water. Hey, if you want to have a breakfast, leave us alone. This place.
Just stop! Don't touch! Don't touch! Don't touch! Don't touch! I will not leave! Don't touch! Don't touch!
يلا أخوها
أنا على حارتي إيش استفدت؟ أنا صحباتي ماتوا في حارتي، أنا ما عنديش دار، أنا ما عنديش شارع، أنا هديك ما عنديش مدرسة، ما عنديش مكان أروح فيه، ما عنديش مية، ما عنديش شرب، ما عنديش مكان آمن هلقيت أنا فيه. إذا رجعت أنا زي ما بيعيشوا. اشمعنا احنا احنا اطفال فلسطين دائما مدوسين في الارض. ليش؟ بس بالعكس الله معنا. وانا طفله فلسطينيه يعني بدي احكي كيف اللي بيصير فينا انه بالدمار وكل شيء. يعني احنا لدرجه اننا بنشوف الاشلاء بتطلع من تحت الركاب، اهالينا بيطلعوا من تحت الركاب اشلاء بيطلعوا. احنا بس بدنا نحكي يا الدول العربيه تدخلوا انهي الحرب. احنا خلص مكفينا. قتلت الشعب والله ما ضلش بالشعب حاجه. شو ضايل يعني؟ شو ضايل من الشعب؟ شو ضايل؟ احنا بدنا حريتنا زي باقي اطفال الدول العربيه. بدنا حريتنا، بدنا نعيش زي ما بيعيشوا. اشمعنا احنا اطفال فلسطين دائما مدوسين في الارض. ليش؟ بس بالعكس الله معنا، الله بضل معنا. احنا بس لو انتم تتدخلوا بتوقفوا الحرب الحين. بنترجاكم وقفوها. مكفي الشعب كله مات. شو ضايل من الشعب؟ شو ضايل؟ بس ساموني ما ضلش. شو بدكم تعملوا يعني فلسطين؟ ما ضلش حد.
What literally breaks me about this video is that the water that these kids are drinking is contaminated. Israel is dropping white phosphorus bombs from the sky that water is coming from. And then meanwhile, we have a president here in the United States that says there is no chance for a ceasefire. Please don't lose momentum. Please don't lose momentum. The people of Palestine need us. They need us. All they ask of us is that we witness and amplify their pain and their suffering.
Let me tell you guys a story. Israel invades Gaza. No, I'm not talking about today. I'm talking about 1956, as part of what is called right now the Suez Canal crisis, when Israel invades Egypt and Gaza with the support of France and Britain. Now, as they're withdrawing from Gaza, they wanted to punish the Palestinians. So they go into a neighborhood in Gaza called Khan Yunis, and they capture as many men as they can find, aged 15 and older. And they line them all up and they execute them. But one 15-year-old happens to survive. The bodies collapse on top of him, and for whatever reason, he lives. And another 9-year-old boy is there as well, but he runs for his life, although his uncle is killed. Then Israel goes around to other neighborhoods in Gaza and does the same thing. In fact, they go to a refugee camp, and they do the same thing, and a 13-year-old boy happens to run away and save his life. These 3 boys grow up, and they found an organization that is called Hamas. That's Ahmed Yassin and Ibrahim al-Yazuri and Abdulaziz al-Rantisi. The reason I'm bringing this up is for 3 reasons. Number 1, Israel has a long-standing policy of disproportionately attacking the Palestinians. And number 2, a very long-standing policy at attacking civilians. They just captured whatever men were there and executed them. And number 3, there is no military solution. There is no military solution to solving the question of the Palestinians. You cannot continuously attack them because their children are going to grow up, and guess what? They're not going to forget. They're going to remember what you did to them. The only solution that exists is the solution of justice.
This is Jonathan Greenblatt, and he's the CEO of the Anti-Defamation League, and you need to hear what he said on a phone call. He's very, very, very concerned about the younger generation being brainwashed by social media, and TikTok is a huge fear of his. They have always had the power to spread misinformation and propaganda, and of course the media co-signs it, and before this app existed, it was very hard to get the truth out. I'm sure you saw this one where an IOF spokesperson told CNN that he found a calendar where Hamas members wrote down their names on what days they're going to be watching the hostages. I'm pretty sure their names are not days of the weeks. I mean, November 6th is Monday. Monday is يوم الاثنين, الثلاث, الأربعاء, الخميس, الجمعة, السبت, الحد, and then you repeat الاثنين, الثلاث. You get the point. But again, if social media didn't exist, how would the world know the truth?
I also want to point out that we have a major generational problem. All the polling I've seen, ADL's polling, ICC's polling, independent polling, suggests this is not a left-right gap, folks. The issue in the United States of support for Israel is not left and right. It is young and old. And the numbers of young people who think that Hamas's, massacre was justified is shockingly and terrifyingly high. And so we really have a TikTok problem, a Gen Z problem, that our community needs to put the same brains that gave us Taglit, the same brains that gave us all these other amazing innovations, need to put our energy toward this, like, fast. Because again, like, we've been chasing this left-right divide. It's the wrong game. The real game is the next generation, and the Hamas and their accomplices, the useful idiots in the West, are falling in line in ways that are terrifying. Last thing I'll just say, we saw a dramatic change in the language of the activists here in America on October the 8th. The language of groups that we've long tracked, who've long been problematic, like Students for Justice in Palestine and Jewish Voices for Peace, they flipped like this and went to like Iranian propaganda. The language I could show you from their toolkits, because our analysts are in their groups. We saw this again on October the 8th. It was that fast. Like, the language in their toolkits was all about the Zionist entity and lots of other language that we recognized from Iranian propaganda.
Well, this is a new low.
Have you expressed any specific concerns to Israel on that, sir?
Well, you know, I have not been reluctant in expressing my concerns what's going on. And it's my hope and expectation that there will be less intrusive action relative to the hospital. I remain somewhat hopeful, but the hospital must be protected.
Hell yeah, look at that nod. A little bit of a low bar, but hey, hospitals are off limits now. That's a good thing. Sorry, what's that? Oh no, they're not off limits. He misspoke again. According to CNN, just a short while after that little press conference, the White House is now seeking to clarify Biden's comments about protecting the Gaza hospitals. Quote, Biden was referring to this extra burden that faces the IDF as they go into Gaza because Hamas does shelter themselves behind civilian infrastructure, said John Kirby, the National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications. What a title. This includes places like hospitals, schools, or tunnels under residential buildings. Yeah, forget what you think he said. Well, what he's really talking about, according to John Kirby, is this incredibly difficult conundrum that the Israeli military forces are facing right now.
75 years. 75 years, the world has turned their faces on us and ignored and silenced our screams, our cries to speak up for yourself. As a Palestinian, throughout your life, you are automatically told that you hate Jews, just to say that you have the right to exist. You have the right to be free. Before terrorist was the name, we would be referred to as rock throwers, suicide bombers. Our oppressor Israel has a whole ass army, but young boys throwing rocks was an act of terrorism. It was either mocked or demonized for Palestinians to do whatever it is they could to defend themselves. For 75 years, you could not get mad as a Palestinian. You could not show your rage because as your people are dying, being displaced, being oppressed, tortured, humiliated, disgraced, you have to be the perfect victim that no one is willing to save or help or free. And when you try to save yourself, you are considered the attacker. You are the barbarian. You are the savage. You are the one that is acting too emotional. You are the one that is too upset because defending yourself is an act of violence and hatred towards Jews. As a Palestinian American, you cannot be upset that your own people are dying. We have to make sure that we speak for our people in a peaceful, kind, and loving manner to make sure people will feel for us. Perfect victim that remains frail and weak and just waiting when we did do that. When it was nothing but cries, when it was, please feel for us, humanize us. The world didn't see or care. And when the world finally turned our way because of 40 fake white decapitated Jewish babies. The truth can no longer be denied. Everything is unmasked. The devil has been unveiled. He doesn't even care to hide, thriving in the apartheid, satanic state of Israel. Now the world can see, thankfully. But this Nakba never stopped from 1948 for Palestinians. It is not a part of history for us. It never ended. We still have families back there. We still have villages we're trying to hold on to and not allow illegal settlers or the forces to shove the rest of us out. When we hear ongoing news all these years of a new neighborhood, a new village, a street that has been taken over by illegal settlers or forces, there is something that is ripped from each of us, from each of our hearts. There is something that is taken away with every update that we hear or see from back home. It is not just the cause, it's our lives as Palestinians, because it just pokes and sears right into the same pains that happened since 1948 and hasn't stopped since. There's that haunting fear that every Palestinian has with whatever ties they have to back home, that the oppressor is getting closer and closer to taking everything and everyone from us. The Nakba never stopped. This is the continuation, the escalation, the next wave of the same ongoing Nakba genocide, ethnic cleansing. The screams of the last 24 hours in these videos, they are the screams, the cries, the pain that Palestinians have been feeling for 75 years. It might be terrifying for many of you to hear and watch since October 7th, but these are the cries that we have heard for 75 years that have been ignored, that have been silenced. And as raw and honest as I may appear on here, I am holding so much. I am holding so much, like so many Palestinians. I am holding so much inside of pain, of hate, of resentment, of paranoia, with so many people supporting us. Thankfully, it is very hard to celebrate anything right now until my brothers and sisters are freed. This call for ceasefire, that word is not new. Humanitarian aid, that is not something new. These are minimal efforts. The world is here for us, but we will never be the same as Palestinians ever again. I will never be the same. I will never see the world the same. I will never trust the world the same. As a Palestinian,
as you reflect on how crazy as shit Noah Schnapp's Zionism is sexy stickers are, I urge you to think about it in context as well. In context of how Israel has long used sexiness as a sort of moral cover. They so often work to present images of their soldiers, particularly their female soldiers, in a sexually appealing sort of way that is both an attempt to distract and to moralize. This propaganda has been pushed by Israel itself on its social media platforms, but also by its soldiers on their own social media platforms. Now you probably have seen and heard the way that influencers are paid by Israel to make content that fits their narratives. And though, of course, we do not get to see who is actually paid and who is doing things without getting paid, the fact that this strategy is so entrenched can give us a better idea as we watch videos made by individual soldiers, such as the one I'm about to show you. Of course, this video sort of speaks for itself. And if you're laughing at that, thinking, how could anyone possibly fall for that? How could anyone be distracted? Anyone with a brain understands that sexy, pretty, etc. people can and do often, quote, harm innocent civilians. I urge you to think of all the young people, maybe those who are chronically online, who are easily influenced by this kind of thing, maybe motivated in ways only teenagers are often motivated. Think about all the, Israeli youth, or young kids in Zionist households. Think about how they bring, sexy IDF soldiers to young Jewish boy summer camps to do exactly this. It may not work on you, but it works on plenty of people. It doesn't take a long, extensive search to find evidence of the sexualization of Israeli forces, specifically the women. For one, I urge you to look up the Maxim campaign that happened for hot Israeli army girls. Just look up Maxim Israeli army girls. And, you can pause and read, look it up for yourself. I always urge you to look things up for yourself. Don't take our word for it. If you want an article to read, I urge you to go and read this one. I like this quote right here regarding all the thirst traps made by Israeli soldiers. All of these thirst traps can create a disorienting experience for a young, horny American progressive with pro-Palestinian sympathies, which of course is exactly the point. Of course, Noah Schnapp's Zionism is sexy stickers are depraved on their own. To be sharing such a message in a time where more than 11,000 Palestinians have been murdered, and with more than 4,500 of those being literal children. Those stickers also exist in a broader context. It's a long-standing Israeli campaign of beautifying occupation, violence, a campaign that clearly attempts to both distract and moralize at the same time. Do your own research, and as always, free Palestine from the river to the sea.
Let's talk about the KKK for a second, because y'all are not applying this logic in enough logical spaces for me. First, let's get the elephant out the room. Yes, Israel did create Hamas. Create, funded, founded, backed, whatever you want to say, until Hamas flipped. You're also ignoring the fact that while it might be in Hamas's charter to destroy Israel, we have been watching Israel actively destroy Palestine for the last month, as they have been doing for the last 75 years. So it's not absolutely out of pocket that Hamas might want their lick and their land back. But anyway. And I'm certainly not saying it's right. I'm just saying there's a level of logic there that the other terrorist organizations in the United States that y'all have no smoke for lacks. So thinking about the KKK, a group that hates black people, immigrants, queer folk, and also Jewish people, with that logic, all of us should stop at nothing until there's not a single member of the KKK left. And that logic means that every single black person should have on-site violence with every white person they encounter. And we don't, because it's illogical. In fact, y'all are all about supporting people who are the victims, who are going to be destroyed by these awful organizations. But last time I checked, the KKK is selling merchandise. They're making t-shirts. They're using Twitter and backing the 45th president of the United States. Where are y'all at, since you care so deeply? Where are you? Because it's foolish to not try to root them out by any means necessary, even if it means indiscriminate violence against white folk. Right? But y'all ain't really about it. And that's partially because no one is really about it, because we are human beings with a conscience. But more pressingly, it's because y'all actually don't care about any human life if that person is darker than a napkin. Shout out to the person who said that to me earlier. Because with y'all's logic, I will once again say there should be no white people. And I'm, again, not saying it because I believe it. I'm saying it because y'all do. So either stop the cap and admit that you're a racist, bigoted, Islamophobic colonizer who can't shake the spirit of their ancestors, or shut up. If you're staying up to date and staying in the know and staying invested in all of the atrocities taking place around the world right now, from Sudan to Congo to Palestine, and you feel like you're going crazy, you're not going crazy. These things are crazy. These things are horrific and horrendous, and you are having the correct emotional response. Everyone else isn't. It feels ludicrous to watch a little boy cry about having to hold a headless body, or to witness hospitals and churches and refugee camps and schools burn, or to see a father holding the body parts of his children in grocery bags, and then turn your head and see other people tell you that it's not really happening, or that it's all fabricated, or that it's somehow justified. It feels crazy. It feels bonkers that a war was going on for over half a year and you likely didn't hear about it until a couple of weeks ago, and no one else is talking about it, and it's just happening. Or the new knowledge is just for you to have a cell phone where you get to learn this kind of stuff and see these kind of horrors. Other horrors are taking place. Millions of people have been displaced. Thousands have been murdered. Children are working in fields with toxins that are poisoning their bodies, and 48 women an hour are being SA'd. And the feminist rights groups and the pro-women groups and the pro-children groups are just crickets in the background. They're calling it a silent genocide. Those words should even belong together. You feel crazy. You're not. The world is burning, and the people with the most power to do anything about it are telling you to look away, to mind your business, or that you're the bad guy and that you're the problem. You're not. You are an empathetic person who cares, and that caring matters right now. It matters so much. And I get it, because I also feel batty. This is my every waking thought. I am slacking as a teacher and an advisor and as a friend and a loved one. And maybe it's me needing to pick up the slack. Or maybe it's the rest of the world that needs to learn how to care. Maybe it's not me. Maybe it's not you. Maybe we're not crazy. Maybe everyone else is.
Why are we using watermelons to play this game? Because they are a symbol of Palestinian resistance. In 1967, the Palestinians were banned from flying their flags. They were also banned from representing their colors in any shape or form, including painting. In the 1980s, 3 artists were arrested for still incorporating the colors of the flag into their paintings. These artists' names were Issam Badr, Nabil Anani, and Silman Mansour. They were arrested and their paintings were confiscated. And they were told that even if you were to paint a watermelon, there would be consequences. That is when they realized that the watermelon contained all of the colors of the Palestinian flag. And that is when the watermelon became the symbol of the Palestinian resistance. So the fact that there have been over 2 million posts using this filter means that there have been over 2 million posts in solidarity with Palestine. Over 2 million posts of people showing their Palestinian resistance. I would also like to show you guys some of their artwork.
Everyone, so I made this effect as I'm on the creativity fund, which means that I make money.
The Israel identity crisis is so real. First they colonized our land, then they tried to claim hummus, and now they're trying to copy our filter. Seek therapy. You know, I wish you would copy like our yearning for justice. Let's try that.
Watch this video and I'll be right back.
יהיה זמן אחר כך, שתחזרו הביתה, נעשה עבודה. העבודה תהיה לפרוק ולספר ולשתף ולבכות. הרבה לבכות, אבל לא בקרב. בקרב, בתוך כדי שאתם שם, תהיו קולים, בלי מסכנות, בלי רחם עצמיים. נסיכים ונסיכות, שלנו אתם. גאווה לאומית, לוחמי על.
That was a message from Zen Master Nissim Amon addressing the IDF. He is with the Dalai Lama. Let's not forget about the Dalai Lama. Nissim himself served in the IDF and fought in the Lebanon War in 1982. Went on to brand himself as this spiritual Zen master. There are a couple of passages in this article from the Jewish Chronicle that I think are worth meditating on. Tanaka Chigaku, a Buddhist scholar and preacher of Nichiren Buddhism, wrote that Jews would destroy morality, but the most popular Buddhist anti-Semite from Japan was D.T. Suzuki. He wrote that action by the against Jews was necessary to preserve the German nation and its happiness, and was in contact with leading in wartime Japan, particularly propagandist Karl Fried Durkheim, who became a Zen master. In the introduction of Suzuki's Zen and Bushido, its editor wrote, Dr. Suzuki's writings are said to have strongly influenced the military spirit of Germany. Between 1938 and 1939, the head of the SS sent an official expedition to Tibet and sought to create meditation retreats in Germany. He also appointed a Sanskrit scholar to the position of director of the Ahnenerbe, Bureau for the Study of Ancestral Heritage, who considered a new religion to be rooted in Hinduism and Buddhism. He saw a direct line from Buddha to Mustache Man. Consequently, the celebrated Suzuki in the propaganda newspaper Volkische Beobachter. The book Zen in the Art of Archery, which was very successful among European readers, was written by Jürgen Habermas. The German-born Israeli philosopher and historian Gershom Scholem spoke of Zen Nazism. Earlier German anti-Semites, such as Wagner, showed a great deal of interest in Buddhism too. Wagner even started to work on an opera called Die Sieger, The Victors, with Buddhist monks as a theme. I'm going to continue to point out these parallels because I really need to get the point across that Zionism is rooted in the same supremacist ideologies as Nazism.
Something bad is about to happen to me. I don't know what, but I feel it coming. Might be so sad, might leave my nose running. I just hope she don't wanna leave me.
This video is for my followers and who have been supporting me since the beginning. Some of you may know that I have created 4 filters which will generate revenue for Gaza if they reach over 200,000 uploads. Here are the filters. This is filter number 1. This is filter number 2. This is filter number 3. And this is filter number 4. If each of these filters reach 200,000 usage from you guys, you can post it privately, then they will start generating revenue. And I've said before, I will show you the proof, I will upload it and I'll show you the proof. And the charities I'm donating to as well. If you trust me and support me, then please do use the filters. It is for a good cause and the money will be going to Gaza. And I've said already, I will be uploading the proof. Most likely I will pin the video as well so you guys will know. Okay then, thank you, bye.
So as of now, we know that Israel has dropped the number of civilians that died on October 7th from 1,400 to 1,200. And of the 1,200 Israelis that died on October 7th, 318 were service members. So those are not civilians. And now we have evidence that the IDF killed their own people on October 7th, including survivors of the Hamas assault said that the Israeli army undoubtedly killed their own civilians. The Israeli government peddled lies to the entire world that 1,400 Israeli civilians were killed by Hamas on October 7th. And they used this lie to essentially commit a genocide in Gaza. As of today, over 12,000 Palestinians have died at the hands of the Israeli occupation forces. Half of that number includes Palestinian children. Many Palestinians are not even included in that number of 12,000 Palestinians dead because they are stuck under the rubble. And Palestinians in Gaza cannot take them out because they don't have the resources to pull them out. So we don't even know the exact number of Palestinians that have been killed. Israel has full impunity to do whatever they want, whenever they want, however they want. And they use our tax dollars to commit these acts of violence. And no one questions it. There is no one to question Israel. No one has been questioning them for the last 75 years. The U.S. government not only funds Israel, but they give them full permission to do whatever they want. And it is our tax dollars that is funding this genocide. I said this before and I'll say it again. Israel lies and lies and lies. And the entire world will believe these lies because the U.S. backs them. And then they'll quietly come out with the truth. And by then, no one ever cares. And it is Palestinians who are left devastated, holding the bag at the end.
Yeah, probably, but hey, why isn't gay marriage legal in Israel? Why are there restrictions for donating blood if you're in the LGBT community? Why is it non-binary recognized? I don't know, just some things I've been thinking.
It's bad movies, cheap fries, and coffee. It's not that hard. You're not banished from those concepts forever. Find them somewhere else. For everyone who sees this video, uses this filter, and tags me, I'll donate $2.50 per person on top of my own personal charitable donation, and I'll make a video about it next week. Fucking get it together.
So if you've been paying attention to the journalists in Gaza, then I would like to talk to you about a concept known as asynchronous communication. Now, asynchronous communication is exactly what it sounds like. Synchronous communication is basically us talking in real time. Asynchronous communication is basically us talking out of time. Basically having a conversation that could span days, weeks, months, what have you, and it still be the same discussion thread. This is basically how online discourse works, particularly on platforms like Twitter. I first heard of this concept through disability advocates at the disabled list, and they were basically saying that the fact that conversations can happen without a time limit and can span weeks, months, years, and people can still continue to go back to threads and discourses time and time and time again is what allows disabled people specifically to exist in this public sphere. And I actively think that this concept could help journalists in Palestine and even still uplift the work of journalists that have been killed. As journalists die and are targeted in Gaza, I've noticed that people stop sharing their videos, and they also stop sharing their work entirely. Mainly people are posting tributes to those journalists, but not continuing to engage in the work that they did prior to their death. Because this is an ongoing ethnic cleansing and genocide that has spanned decades, and that conversation and advocacy online particularly has no time limit, it is still important to engage in the work of journalists that have passed. They are being killed in order to be silenced. Therefore, it makes sense for us to still go back and engage in the work that they've done before their deaths. Because even posthumously, they are not to be silenced. What I recommend and what I will be doing in my stories is going backwards and reposting the videos of journalists that have perished. So if you know of their accounts on here or on social media, please tag them below.
For those people wondering why I've been so loud about the Israel-Palestine thing, or for those people who want to know where I stand with it, let me tell you something. For the last 75 years, Israel has taken almost all of the Palestinian homelands. And they did this by a few means, primarily a lot of violence. We're talking murder, forceful relocation, controlling their resources, controlling their water, their food, running an apartheid regime. There's a reason why a lot of world leaders and a lot of world organizations has deemed Israel to run an apartheid regime against the Palestinian people. Because from the beginning, they've had their boot on their neck this entire time. And this is no different than what they did against indigenous nations here in the Americas when it comes to the arrival of colonizers. They came here, they took everything over, they forced indigenous nations off their indigenous homelands, they put them in reservations very similar to what we see and why they call the Gaza Strip the world's largest open-air prison in the world. There's a reason why there's a saying that goes that someone is off the reservations, because historically speaking, any native that left the reservation land was performing an illegal act and therefore was under punishment by the government. And in Palestine, you got a group of people who decided that they wanted to fight back. You need to understand that this was done out of necessity for their right to exist. I'm not going to lie. There's definitely people within there. There's no such thing as a perfect victim, right? No such thing as a perfect victim. And there are things that certain people within this organization did that really wasn't that cool. But you take the actions of a select few and apply it to the whole is where the problem lies. Very similar to what we saw with indigenous nations and colonizers. And this may not be a direct parallel, but there are definitely instances where certain groups of indigenous people will fight back against the colonizers here in the Americas, and they use that as a means to justify eradicating all the people. It became less about these select few people who maybe went and burned down a village or something, or a white settlement, and it very quickly became not this particular group problem, it's the Indian problem. And historically, when you look back on it, that's what you see, the Indian problem. So it's not really, in terms of Palestine and Israel, it's not really a terrorist problem the way that they're treating it like a Palestinian problem. Take the actions of a few and apply it to the whole. And when you control the media, you control the governmental force that is above this land of which you occupy. You can spin that narrative any way that you want. It's propaganda. The same with indigenous nations when they relabeled us savages. It was dehumanizing so you can justify a means of eradication. And in terms of Palestine and Israel, again, terrorist. And they've ran this propaganda for the last 75 years. Regardless of where you stand politically on one side or the other, at the end of the day, there is never a justification for genocide. And that's exactly what this is. This is an ethnic cleansing. This is a genocide that's being done to an entire group of people, not just a select few. So for those of you who have wondered what colonization looks like, this is exactly what it looks like. This is not to center indigenous history in the current events. This is about Palestine and Israel. This is why you see a lot of indigenous nations come to the support and stand in solidarity with Palestine. Now, I obviously don't speak for all Native people, but this is just a perspective, something to think about.
Hey, American government. We American citizens, conservative, Republican, and Democrat, want a ceasefire. And I know y'all know we don't see eye to eye on very many things, but I think this is the time where we collectively agree, ceasefire now. Yo, are they talking to us? Do they really think that we give a fuck? I mean, we're literally standing right fucking here. We can hear you. Oh shit, they're watching us. They're watching us. Shit, I think they can hear us. I think they can hear us. To all the farmed, American citizens, yeah. We, the American government, do not have the same ideals as you, the American people. So we cannot foresee a ceasefire, because if we did that, then we wouldn't be able to gain the economic value that we're looking for. If anything, we're coming for your First Amendment right too. Toodaloo, have a good American dream.
Shimal, Yamin, Qusum, Israel.
Want to know why every single fucking time a place is rich in something of value like natural resources, both of your names pop up all the fucking time? What? Well, I can explain. We can explain that. Accusations. False. That is false. That's a false statement. I don't agree with that. Syria! Syria is rich in oil and gas. As fuck. Rich as fuck. Why would you fund the 12 rebel groups that were trying to overthrow Syria's government? What? The Congo. I am not involved in the Congo. You guys' names. What the fuck? That's their problem. I have nothing to do with that. Why are you funding the rebel groups in the Congo? I am not involved in the Congo. The Congo is the richest place in precious minerals. $24 trillion in untapped raw mineral deposits. I don't know what you're talking about. 63% of the world's cobalt comes from there. If they have a stable government, they become the richest fucking place in the world. And you guys can't have that. You guys can't have that. They can't have a stable government. They can't own their shit, because then we don't get a hand in the money. That's why y'all are funding the rebel groups in the Congo. That's why y'all are funding the rebel groups in Syria. You guys are the reason all these places are oppressed and in poverty. We don't get control. Then they have a voice. Then they can actually make decisions for the world. Well, we wouldn't be able to make iPads, iPhones.
Yeah, like we wouldn't even own it. Like we would make no money off of that.
Cars. How are we supposed to make money if we don't own it? Weapons.
We can't make money if we don't control it. Really anything with metal. Smart cars, fucking Teslas. Silly goose. We wouldn't be able to make them without.
ايوه عيني يلا كمان مرة وفاء.
There is a list in Arabic that says, we declare some war. We are in operations Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Hamas Day. Let me show you something else. You see this? This may be a normal curtain to you, but for Hamas, this is a perfect hostage filming background. Ventilation systems for breathing Hamas in. Let me show you this. Wipes. Wipes to wipe down what? Look at this. A soap bottle in a kitchen. You hear that?
A violent reminder that if you consume black or brown people culture but stay silent in the face of oppression or genocide, you're a dick.
Here's something you should know about me. When the baddies do it to themselves, I'm gonna laugh. I laughed at Ocean Gate, and I'm laughing at this. Apparently, back in the day, Israelis really wanted to get their lick back on Saddam. They hatched this plot called Operation Bramblebush. It was based on their intelligence that Saddam would be attending the funeral of his father-in-law. They were so excited that they decided to have a dress rehearsal. But at that dress rehearsal, they accidentally fired a live missile. This has been your moment of levity.
Here's an inside joke. I use it with my siblings and my friends, and you can use it too. So if somebody did something obviously unacceptable, we say, oh my God, stop being a Zionist. And if anybody defended them, we say, oh my God, here comes America. If somebody took something that doesn't belong to them, we say to the offended side that, oh my God, you've been Israeled. So let me know how you can use it too.
Don't forget that it's not just about free Palestine, but the Palestine that's freeing us along the way.